Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to GRC Football TV. The Arsenal boys have their jersey on, so of course you know they are 5 points clear from everybody else. Big Dunk has his Bournemouth jersey on. His team won, even if his main team is Leeds. And of course, Mr. Hinder is just waiting to player hate on everybody else as a wonderful Wednesday fan. Let us start straight into it. The last weekend of the Premier League football before the World Cup starts. Let us start with the top four. Pick Steve. Once again, I'll start with you and I'll ask you the simple question. Will Arsenal win the league 5 points clear? World Cup, good time to start, to relax. I know some of your players are going, but is this a good step towards holding that title at the end of the season?
They've given themselves the best possible chance in the first half of the season. Can they hold on? They're definitely title contenders. I'll say it, they're title contenders. But it's all about how the teams all return from the World Cup with their players. It's a massive break. Was it 6 weeks or something like that before the teams come back and start playing again? So it's going to be who can deal with it best in January. Do they strengthen? I say by the end of January, mid-February, we'll know who's the men from the boys in terms of the league. Definitely.
The men from the boys, I like it. Well, using one of your favorite words, Big Dunk, momentum. Has the momentum been killed with the World Cup? Is it with Arsenal do you think they would have preferred to continue playing? Do you think, with getting results week in, week out, do you think this might actually change stuff by the end of the World Cup?
Yeah, I'm sure they would have preferred to carry on playing because they're on a hot streak and they're top of the table. Man City are probably more glad of the break, seeing as they just lost to Brentford. Not a great result for them and giving up ground on the title race. I'm sure if we were to do some predictions, we'd have said it would have been the other way around and it was Arsenal slipping up with Man City powering on. But it's nice. So, again, as I've got no skin in the game for the title race, I would be quite happy to see Arsenal win the title. And unpopular opinion, I followed football in the 80s as well. I was quite happy to see Liverpool win a title, even though lots of people seem to dislike some of their fans online. JJ Shaney said, because obviously Man U fans are amazing online, aren't they, JJ?
I'm a host. I have no opinions. Remember? Well, we're 5 points ahead of City. City slipping up, which we'll get into. The angry one, your clip during the week, you were talking about not wanting most of your players to go for the World Cup.
Damn right.
So with the amount of Arsenal players actually going to the World Cup, I mean, is there a possibility, as I said, momentum and injuries and all that coming? But do you think it's a different mindset? They go to the World Cup, regardless of what happens, they come back. And do you think Arsenal can continue this flow?
Yeah, I think what I'm hoping what will happen is, obviously, Gareth made some boo-boos in his selection, so he's brought in Maguire. Maguire's going to do over England. We'll get knocked out just in the last 16, which gives Saka and Ben White plenty of time to come back to Arsenal. That's not what I want to happen, but that's what's probably going to happen, to be honest. So if they come back unscathed, then we can just go again, I think. But then it is a bit of a gap between you playing so well and then suddenly having to wait like 3-4 weeks, how long it will be. So, I mean, it could affect us, but if we don't have any injuries, our first 11 is good enough. So it just depends whether we get any injuries, really.
First 11 being good enough, Mr. Hinder, one of the things that you mentioned was the Arsenal fans don't want to, give themselves too much hope and then eventually fall off. But with 5 points clear, City looking like they're starting to want to maybe grind out results instead of just winning, even if it's just one game. I like how you say it straight. You tell the Arsenal fans what they don't want to say. Will they win the league, Mr. Hinter?
Will they win the league? I don't know. I think they're going to choke on a good one at some particular point. I think we're all waiting for that to happen. And I think that's why the Arsenal fans are going, I think Ian Wright said on Match of the Day that they're being humble. Nah, they're not being humble. They're not, because they wouldn't be saying they'd be doing so well and they'd be like, oh yeah, we're doing all right. We're pleased that we're at. It's none of that. They're very happy and over the top, excited about where they're at the moment. You can see on Steve's little face, it's at least semi at the moment, but it's more to the fact of they don't want to feel that they say that they're going to win it because they don't want to jinx it, but that doesn't happen in the real world, right? It comes down to 11 guys on a pitch either doing the right stuff or not. But at the moment, there's no reason why they can't win it. They're top of the league by 5 points. everyone would have taken that who's an Arsenal fan at the beginning of the year. And
So is it a case of is there league to lose at this point in time?
Yeah, they're managing their own sadness for the last 18 years ago. You won the league, I believe it was. So I didn't have grey hair. I had less grey hair at that particular point in my life. Steve might have had hair. I don't know. Might have had some hair as well. Duncan definitely had hair back then. And JJ's clinging on to his by the looks of it with the hat on. So it was different times back then. Wenger was in. Everyone was excited. I think probably when Wenger was obviously amazing, and what he did for not just for Arsenal but for the whole Premier League in general was fantastic. And this is probably the biggest transition since then, of a new ethos at the club and everyone buying into exactly what they want to happen. And that's why there's such a feel-good factor around it. But the fans just need to get a little bit excited. There's nothing wrong with getting carried away, being 5 points top of the league at Christmas.
Yeah, but we've only got 11 good players, though.
Yeah,
once you go past the first 11, that's the worry, isn't it? It's because you're going to have a perfect season, no injuries at all, to be confident.
I said that at the end of last season. I said that you needed 11 new players to back up that squad, right?
Because
I don't think the problem is in the first 11. It's because of who is chasing us. It's Man City, and over the last couple of years, they've
and Newcastle. Sorry, New Geordie boys.
Newcastle are chasing, but Newcastle. Man City and Liverpool have set such a high bar to win the league. You're talking 90 plus points, almost 100 points, loads of goals. It's whether the other teams feel they can put a squad together. But
that doesn't matter as long as we keep winning our games. That's my point. So as long as we're 5 points clear, as long as we keep winning our games, nobody will catch us. But the reason why we won't.
But apart from Man City and Liverpool in the league, no one's put that bar so high to win the league. Look at Liverpool's won one title.
Yeah, but
in the last 3 years, and they've gone over 90 points.
But it doesn't matter who's behind us. The only person that can stop us winning, well, technically, City could take 6 points of us, to be fair. But the only person that can stop us winning is us. And I just feel like once we go past our first 11.
So I know you mentioned that you have
got a squad. We haven't got a squad. That's the
I know
issue.
you mentioned just having a first 11, City having a squad. Mr. Hinder said Arsenal needs to buy more players. The question here, though, isn't that testimony to how good Arteta is? Because even with the first 11 and the subs that he makes, so with the El Nenis and everybody else that comes on, you probably have arguably two of the best left backs in the league. So you might say you don't have more than Mr. Hinder squeezing his face when I said two of the best left backs in the league. You might say you just have a first 11, but you still have a good enough squad, though,
I think
to go on and win the league.
I think that everyone's right that it's a bit of a worry past the first 11, and I said that they needed to improve the first 11 in order to get, rather than who they're buying. Obviously, Jesus has been a great signing for them. Zinchenko is doing great things whenever he is asked to play over left back or centre midfield or whether he's looking to play, and he seems a solid signing. But there seems to be quite a few, I don't want to say bad signings, but some iffy signings maybe along the way as well, where they've tried to get a couple of players that aren't expensive, but they're just, 15, 10, 20 million, and then just not the quality that to take you to the next level. They're hoping that they take you to the next level, but they're not good enough.
So, Dunk, let me ask this. Michael said they have a first 11. Steve is worried about the standard that Liverpool and City have set over the past few years. If you're thinking about it as an Arsenal fan, that shouldn't bother you, because as Mike has said, as long as we win our games. Looking at the team, though, Big Dunk, look at the Arsenal team. Who is the one player that if they take out, that's it, game over, they're going to struggle? The same way if you look at City, take out De Bruyne, they're going to struggle. Who is that player in Arsenal that it looks like he's key to them continue this momentum?
So I'll just answer the first point first, because I agree with Steve. Like, Man City and Liverpool have set the bar so high the last few seasons. But if you look at it already, is it Man City have dropped 13 points already? So I think fortunately for Arsenal, like the bar is going to be lower this season, because it looks like Liverpool had an awful start. Man City have dropped like a few points, unless they go on some like crazy run, which they're capable of, and they have done in previous seasons. It looks like that bar will be a little bit lower, so that will give hope to Arsenal fans. With regards to the player, who it is at the minute, I think I'd have to say at the minute it's Gabriel Jesus. Like, based on the cup performance that Nketiah came in. I mean, Nketiah is getting a couple of goals, but I think Jesus is the man that makes it tick up front. Martinelli and Saka obviously know where they want to go when Jesus is playing and create opportunities, and they're getting goals as well. But I'm going to say Jesus, like even when he's not scoring, he's like in and around harassing defenders, like making space for everyone else, creating chances. So he'd be my man.
Okay, so now just to talk about this conversation about setting the bar so high, don't you think it's a bit unfair saying that the bar is not so high for Arsenal? Big Steve, aren't you saying, or wouldn't you say, that Arsenal are actually the ones setting the bar this season?
Yeah, we are setting the bar this season.
So why are you worried about Liverpool and Man City?
No,
from last season.
I'm worried about the Man City, what they're capable of as a team. They are capable of going on a run of 15 games and winning all 15 games.
So can you, though?
Yeah, we can do, but Man City have the squad, the history to say that they've done it, and they have the potential to do it again because they've strengthened with Haaland. Yeah, but that bar is very, very high. So over the course of a season, where your bar might have been mid-80s in terms of the points, you're talking almost 100 points to win the league. And that's only Man City and Liverpool that have done that at such a high level. So Man City have the potential. If it was Chelsea, Tottenham that was second and Man City wasn't in the equation, Arsenal fans will feel a lot more comfortable because none of those sides have done that. But Man City and Liverpool have been that consistent over the course of a season that they can go to almost 100 points to win the league.
Good win against Wolves this weekend for the Arsenal. As I said, they're sitting top of the table, 5 points clear. Arteta will be happy. Just to pretty much have a pre-conversation about what could possibly happen in January, let's start with you, the angry one, because you have mentioned we only have a first 11. Who do you need to strengthen your squad? Who would you buy? Or who do you think, what positions do you think they should get?
Well, I think midfield, I think I not disagree. Well, yeah, I guess it is. I disagree with Dunk a little bit. I think our key player at the moment, who's irreplaceable, and we don't have like for like, is Partey, to be honest, because there is nobody else who can play like him. Xhaka can't play there. He's better further forward. Jesus is also, I would agree, a little bit irreplaceable, but you can play Nketiah there and still, I know it's a poor man's version, but you can still get something out. You can still get goals, what have you. But if Partey is there, Lokongos doesn't play that position. There is only one person who plays Partey's role the way he plays it. So for me, that's the key for Arsenal. So we'd have to get somebody in midfield.
Who can El Neni there, Mike? Like what the hell?
No, but he's more defensive, and he's like a crab. He's passes sideways. He can't really push it forward. Do the fake step overs and all that sort of stuff that Partey does, and he can't bang it from 45 yards with his instep either. He's got that in the locker as well. So yeah, so there isn't really a direct replacement for him, and the way that Partey plays is integral to the way that Arteta wants to play. That's why Jack has moved a bit further forward, and that's why we're getting the best results. So that's all part of Partey being there. So when we need a midfielder, people probably say Tielemans, because he's the one people are talking about before, and he's probably pretty cheap. But we do need to. I probably think we need a better centre back because Holding's a bit washy. And I would probably get another winger. But then we've got ESR who can cover multiple positions when he's fit. So I think 2 or 3 more additions will be all right. Definitely is midfielder, 100%.
Mr. Hinde, last season you said Arsenal needs a new 11. Do you still think they need a new 11? And what's the argument in your head about them having 2 of the best left-backs in the league?
Well, I don't think they've got 2 best left-backs in the league. 2 of. I mean, they've got 2 left-backs in the league. But I think that's a case to get at some statistics and going through some different things. At the moment this season, Arsenal's back 4 have worked well as a unit. And that'll probably be down to how well Partey's played to help him out and give him extra comfort. Does go, I think Mike's right. I would be saying that either Partey or Odegaard would be the 2 players that aren't replaceable for that team at the moment. As much as Jesus has been good, Martinelli's had a good start, and Saka's had a good start.
Sorry, say that again.
I said as much as they've all had a good start.
That last part.
And Saka's had a good start to the season. Yeah,
Sorry,
I still think they're easier to replace than the middle 3. And if you look at the squad as well, I think they still need players to move on. Like they got rid of Lacazette and got Jesus, and which was brilliant. But really, maybe they could have kept Lacazette on the bench and got rid of Nketiah and had a better backup. Somebody that's been around the block a lot. Getting somebody in to play second fiddle is going to be quite hard. So either they replace players with better quality players. When you look at them, I do like Arteta with the way that he goes about the end of the games. He brings on players that are happy to do squad work for the team, rest some players, and look at just firming it up. But they don't have anything. If they were 2 down, who do they bring on? How do they change it up? ESR's injured quite a lot, which is unfortunate for me because I thought he was a great football player. He hasn't played at all this season. They need 3 across the park, definitely, to have some form of challenge in there to come in and say, actually, we can take your place. Because at the moment, as much as everyone said Xhaka was rubbish and everything, you don't put Elneny on for him. There's no one to replace any of those 3 players in the middle of the park for a period of games, right? You wouldn't want to go 2 or 3 games with the people that they put in the Europa League, right? It would just be sacrilege in the Prem. So Tielemans, if he's the one they're linked with, he's definitely a better option than anyone else that they've got on the bench. Is he better than the current 3? Probably not as for the team. He wouldn't get straight in there, but that's who they've got to start looking for. Direct replacements for who they've got and the way that they want to play. And I would be looking
Mm.
hopefully to get better ones in because Saabii, like you said, I think it's been poor. I think they've made some really dodgy signings. I think it reminds me of when they tried to replace Anelka and Henry, and then they started having like Wiltord and Boa Morte, and they stayed around for way too long, and they weren't of the caliber of what they really wanted, but they were just getting in. And I think that's kind of, they need to go, you know what? We've got this position now, we're first. We have to continue to build on that. And momentum is key in it. And having new players in the locker room that can build up that squad and go, you know what? This is perfect. And that's good. But, great props to Arsenal for where they are at the moment. Do they have a better squad than Man City on paper? No. But they're top of the league. And actually, that's the only stat that counts come the end of the season. Who's top?
Well, that is the only stat that's the only stat that counts. Arsenal on top, 5 points clear. We'll see what happens. Arteta has rallied that team to the top of the league just in time for the World Cup. Now, moving on to Man City, which the team is, Big Steve has said, I set the bar so high. Brentford took that bar straight down. Big Steve, what is the situation? Man City look like they have been struggling in terms of trying to get things to, well, when I mean struggling, compared to their previous levels from other seasons that you have mentioned. Dunk mentioned they've already dropped 13 points. Is this a good time for them to take a break? Most of the players on that team will be going to the World Cup, but it's a good time for them to stop, recoup, and then see what happens after the World Cup.
It would be a good time if it meant that the players were around and they could work on some stuff. The problem that Pep's got is that most of the players, if not all their players, are gone apart from Haaland. Man City's problem, I think, is that they're trying to fit Haaland into their game. So they've gone away from...
You see that as a problem now?
For them, because at the end of the day, if they were doing what they're continuing to do, some of the results, I believe, will be different. But because he's in the side now, there's some adjustments. So it allows for teams to capitalize on that in some sense. And you can see it in some of the games that they're doing. Also, some players, some teams are very tactically aware, as you saw in the Brentford game yesterday. They played to a game plan, and the game plan worked.
So not many teams go up to Etihad and their game plan works. Brentford did. Do you agree with Big Steve Dunk in terms of Haaland might be the solution and the problem at the same time?
Well,
in terms of how they're trying to play and trying to feed him,
I don't know. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? After his start to the season, I mean, I think most of us would agree, and I said it, like his start to the season, that was unsustainable. Like the amount of goals he scored, so we can't expect to see that like consistently through a season. I think he's going to be key for them this season. Like they're going to be relying on his goals, and again, like a game went by, the Brentford game, and he didn't get a goal, and it's cost them. I don't think I'm going to lay that squarely at his feet. But like Steve said, they had a game plan. They went there, much like Newcastle. That was at the Etihad, Newcastle. Was that at St James's Park?
No, that was at St James
Park. But again, regardless of where it was, they took them on, and that game ended 3-3, didn't it? So we've seen teams do it. They got away with it against Fulham the other week, was it, when they had the red card? So they're on a bit of shaky ground at the minute. So it's for others to capitalise. I think we draw the picture here like Arteta's in the fast lane. It's like Ferrari. He's out of front. Pep's kind of like blocking the fast lane up in his Bentley, and Eddie Howe's coming behind his Jag E-Type going, get out my way, sunshine.
So when you're looking at it that way, and the way you have described it, so we understand that Haaland came as a focal point, and they're trying to play to his tune, pretty much freeing up De Bruyne to put those supplies in. And of course, you have Foden, who also has stepped up his game. So is this an early slump for City, considering the fact that, yes, they drew against Newcastle, they lost to Brentford? Teams are, going to the Etihad, we're trying to implement. I mean, Crystal Palace went there and they were 2 up before they lost. So does Pep need to kind of switch things around, step up his game, or is the strategy because they want to feed Haaland that everybody's just understanding, okay, fine, if we play a particular way, we can beat them, the angry one?
Well, if you watch the game, really, they didn't really stop Haaland. They stopped supply to Haaland. So it wouldn't have mattered if Haaland wasn't playing. They've still got to supply the ball to somebody, unless they don't play with a striker.
Yeah, so but when they play, they have never really played. So you know how last season everybody was saying, "Oh, you need a striker, you need a focal point," and they didn't get a striker. Well, they did, but they were playing Jesus on the left, on the right. But now with Haaland, as you said, everybody knows the supply is going to a particular focal point. So is it not easier, but is it better for teams to strategize against City?
No, I don't think so, because I think teams had strategies for when they played a false nine, because they didn't win every game when they had a false nine. They lost games when they've won leagues before. There's no different. The only difference between this season and last season, or the season before and the season before, is it's Arsenal in the box seat now rather than Liverpool. So now everyone thinks, oh, City have dropped their standards, but it's not really. Just Arsenal are playing exceptionally well. That's it. If it was Liverpool at the top, where you expect them to be, you'd be like, oh yeah, City, they'll catch them in the end. We wouldn't be really talking about it. It's just who's ahead of Man City at the moment makes people think City aren't playing well. But they're playing well enough. The way they play now would normally have won them the league, and then probably will still win the league anyway. It's not like
they've definitely dropped their standards this season. If they've dropped 13 points with the 15 games in, if you look at their points tallies over the last few seasons, what have they lost? 1-2 games over the course of a whole season?
But even in the seasons past, they always pick up, like you said before, they've got the capacity to go on and run at any time. So I remember one season when they were chasing Liverpool, they were poor, and everyone thought Liverpool were going to win it, and then they came back, went on a run. The season when the company's got that magic go from miles out, they were chasing for ages. So they've got form for it. You can't.
I think defensively, he's I don't know if drop the ball is the issue, or he keeps changing the centre back pairing, and he's trying to play what's the new centre back? Akanji. Yeah, Akanji. Sorry, it seems to be playing a lot. You don't see Diaz, you don't see Laporte every week, or Stones.
So
teams are getting better as well. It's not.
Teams are getting better, but the fact that he's a new signing and he's come in and he's playing the majority of their games, and the people that have there, Laporte, Stones, Ruben Diaz, just are not there. So I don't know what's going on at the back for them, and I think that's having an impact.
So what, you're saying that they're defensively poor and also can't create chances for Haaland, who scored 17 goals?
No. Defensively, they're poor, but what I'm saying is the fact that attacking-wise, they're fitting Haaland into it. When they're playing the false nine, you had so many different angles you were being attacked through with Man City, but now it's not the same fluidity going forward.
How many games have they won because of Haaland?
The focus is on Haaland. Yes, Haaland will score goals, but it's also, when he's not effective, he's really not effective. He's not touching the ball. Whereas when they played false nine, all their guys up front were touching the ball. Doesn't matter. You was getting attacked through so many different angles, but if Haaland doesn't score, it's like you're carrying a player.
So when he smashes the ball in the net and he's scoring goals, it's great. As soon as he doesn't score, it's his fault.
I didn't say it's his fault. At no point in this conversation have I said it's his fault. I said the fact that they're trying to accommodate him into this new style, they have to change the way they play.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is hurting them attacking wise.
You know why
Well,
Mike
like-
thought that? It was JJ's questioning. He was trying to make me say that, but I didn't say that either.
Well, no, don't blame it on me. Don't blame it on me. It's my, you know how the angry one levels up on how he thinks. Okay, Mr. Hinder, what is Pep missing this season? Because we all talk about how his strategy, his tactics, he likes to switch things around in games. Big Steve has also talked about, the possibility of him not actually fulfilling the centre backs. So what is the issue this season so far? Dropping 13 points from 14 games, I believe. What is Pep getting wrong?
Nothing. Twitter is at the moment #PepOut. That is actually on there. Ludicrous. Pep is a victim of his own high standards, and the issue is of how well he's done before. But let's not forget they've lost 2 games this season. 2 in 14 games is nothing. They won the league by losing 6 games at one point when United was second that season. So they can still lose 4 more and still win the league, according to previous statistics. They've bought Haaland, and suddenly they can no longer play football. And if Haaland doesn't touch the ball, it's a bad game. No, rubbish, Steve, rubbish. I want you to take it back, and I want a full written apology to Pep and Haaland and everyone in the football community that you may have upset with that
Twisting your
comment.
words, Steve. Don't let him get away with that.
Right.
I reckon Pep should call me, and then we can straighten it all out. We're all good, man.
Pep will give you a call once you've written that apology. So they've bought Haaland, and they no longer have a false 9. They have a guy that can play up front, and I dare say he could probably play midfield, right back, left back. Might not be the best centre back in the world, but he's got a bit of physicality, a bit of pace there. The guy's an absolute world-class striker. Of course, they're going to want to get the ball to him. Of course, De Bruyne's one sole mission is to get that ball to Haaland to score goals, because that's the whole point of having a pivotal striker in a team. And you see it from about, 17 other Premier League teams who have a striker up there that it works successfully for. They've played with Aguero before, who obviously is a slightly different version to Haaland, but he's a pivotal striker. He wasn't one to hold the ball up and bring people in. And actually, considering how big Haaland is and the way that Haaland doesn't do that either. Haaland is running onto the ball striker, back post. He's a really, really good poacher. Obviously, he's much more of a football player than that, but that's the way that he plays the football. It isn't a back to the goal, hold the ball up, bring everyone else into play. So it's a very similar ethos to that. Taking De Bruyne out, which Brentford did this week, was perfect. The way that they went about the business. And I think we spoke last week of who was more important. I think we both said that De Bruyne was more important to them than Haaland was. They've got Julian Alvarez as well, that has scored a couple of quality goals already this season. So there is movement. But De Bruyne is so good that when you take De Bruyne out, you've also got it's a whole different way of playing. They were desperately unlucky against Brentford. They weren't as like they were outplayed, and
they were unlucky not to concede more than 2.
100%. But they've played high line. When I say a high line, like literally, they play maybe their back feet touching a halfway line most of the time. They play so high and so up the pitch with the ball that is their way of defending. It's not new. It's what they've always done. They're not playing too compact. Blocks of 4. They don't do that at City. It's not the way that Pep likes to play his football. He likes the players to have the ball, to pass it around and to move it, and not just sideways for the sake of it, but looking for space and, all the good stuff that you should learn as a kid of playing 11 aside on a third of a pitch in order to try and find some space, right? So they do all of that. They're going to get counterattacked every time. It's going to happen in every game, and that's the way that you beat City, because, they're going to have the ball for so much that you have to do that. No one's going to outplay City in a way that they've out-footballed them. They don't. But you outplay City, and everyone understands how to beat City. And City, unfortunately, just sometimes have a bad day. They could have conceded 4 easily that game. But I wouldn't say that they were outplayed on the park. They were definitely maybe a couple of lapsing concentrations in there. But
and it's a last minute goal as well from a corner. So
and Ivan Toney missed this absolute sitter as well, didn't he?
What we're trying to say here, that there's no panic at City. It's way too early to.
Who do they get in?
Potter? There's way too early.
Bielsa?
Way too early to mention anything about City falling off the rail. But Doug, obviously the angry one, and Mr. Hinder, have said what Steve is saying is not particularly correct. Is there an understanding to Steve's perspective? He does have a point that the way Man City are playing with a focal striker, that there will be games like the game against Brentford where it may seem that they're carrying him. Does Steve have a point, or are these other two guys just not giving him the light of day here?
I don't know what these other two guys are on about. Steve always talks sense.
How much you paying for that?
I do actually agree with Steve. Yeah, because it's happened in some games. Like it happened in the game against Brentford, and it's happened in a couple of other games. Like recently, since Haaland's fallen off his insane scoring streak. So yeah, he does have a point, and maybe they still have some job to do.
You genuinely think that City are carrying Haaland?
No one's. That's not what he said.
That's what he said.
It's
the words were
said.
that they were carrying him in games. That was exactly what he said.
I was actually listening, so I will repeat Steve's words back for you, Neil. He said,
but that's what JJ just said.
There's a big focus on getting the ball to him, and they play slightly differently from they did last season when they had no focal striker.
But can I say something?
Yeah, we all agreed to that.
Wait, hold on. So when they didn't have a focal point, and they still lost games because everyone was saying, "Oh, you need a focal point. You need number 9." Blah blah blah. Oh, they need a number 9. Now they've got a number 9, and they still lose. They'll still lose a game. It's it's because they're playing number 9. It doesn't make sense.
Any big player. It's like.
If we go back, you just said a couple of episodes ago that they need a number 9 because that's why they didn't win X game, Y game. Now they've got one. Same thing.
Jesus comes into Arsenal, right? He changes the way they play going forward.
To this too?
Right? He changes the way. If you bring in a major player into a side, it adjusts the way they play football. So they have to adjust to that. He's not going to come in automatically.
But 2 seasons ago,
I 100% agree that they've changed the style of football.
But
that's not what the conversation was. It was, are they carrying Haaland when he's not touching the ball? That's what Jay said. If you want to go back, we'll play that footage. We'll put it in the comments underneath, and you can say that we were said.
And while you're looking at it, go back and confirm when they were losing games without a striker, how Steve would have been saying they need a striker. Now they got a striker.
I didn't say that.
Guys got 17 goals. I didn't
say that they need a striker. I didn't say they need a striker.
Goalkeeper talking it.
Okay,
I blame this on JJ's Fox News style question.
No, I don't understand. I just asked a simple question. Okay, fine. Let us agree, disagree, and understand into different perspectives. Donk says he understands what Dixie is saying. And
first of all, I think we're all under the same impression, apart from he's being carried, right? Does anyone actually think he's been carried?
No. What I said is that in games when he doesn't touch the ball and he's ineffective, it's like they're carrying him.
So you just
said then.
So you said he's being carried. So Duncan, do you agree with him that he gets carried in games?
I'm just agreeing with Steve. He's a knowledgeable guy, and he talks.
Okay, so no panic, no panic, Man City.
Right for later.
Neil, stop interrupting me.
Look, if I'm going to back anyone, look at you lot. I'm going to back Steve. All right.
Okay, no panic at City.
No,
they've lost 2 games, dropped 13 points more than they already have at this point last season. But there is the possibility and still the fear that they are the ones to chase and possibly catch Arsenal. As the angry one mentioned, with 2 games. They still have to play Arsenal twice. If they win those games and they win every other game, it could turn around. But we shall see what happens. My last question on City, though, is when it comes to changing certain players and adjusting certain positions, he's very quick to go out there and buy wing backs, goalkeeper. But with the centre backs, Laporte gets injured all the time. Diaz had a good season, but it seems like he too is also getting injury. John Stones is very hot and cold. Ake, very hot and cold as well. Why Akanji seems to be starting all the games since he has come in? What is the problem? Why is that a position? And let's start with Big Steve. Why is that position somewhere he can't seem to solve at a particular point, or at this particular point?
Is it because they're carrying Haaland?
I don't know. To me, defense is all about partnerships. So you can have really great individuals. You need to find partnerships that work. And to me, this season, he just doesn't seem to be able to find one, whether it's a case of injury, loss of form, or they just don't play the way that he wants to play. So it's a struggle as to why he can't find that right partnership at the back.
So this season, when you look at that team, the angry one, who would you think, or without injuries or without anything, stopping any pairing, who would be your best pair for City at the back?
I think if they were fit, he probably would have, if they were always fit, he'd have kept the same guys. He wouldn't have bought a Kanji. But it's because they've got injuries that they brought him in. So I haven't seen loads. Kanji looks alright, but I always liked Ruben Diaz, to be honest, and Laporte. But if those guys aren't fit, then you don't know.
Okay, well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Man City is sitting second on the table. They will see if they go on that great run or whether carrying Haaland or not carrying Haaland will stop them from shining this season.
Unbelievable.
Now, going in, they came in, they were outside the top 5, but they became top 4. Now they are third, sitting in the table. The Geordie lads, the Geordie boys, and they're playing very good football. Of course, there's always one person to start with the great praise for Eddie Howe. Big Dunk. Apart from Eddie Howe's strategy, tactics, formations, one of the things that people have mentioned is how he has improved individual players. Joe Linton, Willock, Almiron, Callum Wilson, since he has played with him before. And he seems that every player that he just gets into the team is playing really well. What would you say he does to these players that just inspires them and makes them play quality football that nobody else has seen? Apart from, you love Eddie Howe so much, I'm sure you have an insight to what he does.
Well, I'm not inside the rooms here, JJ. I can't imagine what he does to those players. But I think the thing about Newcastle is they're just functioning as a team. And that's where you want to be. That's like the goal from any club. And we're seeing kind of similar things with Arsenal as well. It's not about individuals. It's about the team. It's about the team ethic. It's about working, fighting for each other on the pitch, playing with pride for the jersey. So yeah, like we kind of saw what Eddie Howe was made of when he was at Bournemouth, and like he likes to play nice attacking football, attractive football. But like we've seen with Newcastle this season, they are hard to score past. They're hard to beat. So he's obviously been coaching that in on the training ground, the defensive side of things, because we look at last season. I mean, he improved that instantly, but they shipped a ton of goals at the start of last season. So there's a defensive improvement. There's playing like a team, but it's all areas of the pitch. Like the midfielders really working hard. They're contributing goals as well. Bruno's banged a few in this season, and the attackers have got their mojo on as well. Obviously, Callum Wilson, pleased to see him doing well as an ex-Bournemouth player and making the England squad. So yeah, I mean, he's just doing an all-round great job because it's Eddie Howe.
Well, when you say that, that's his, he's doing an all right, good job. When you look at those players in Newcastle, Big Steve, looking at those players, what player do you think would easily walk into the top 2 teams in the Premier League? I was going to say top 4, but they are in the top 4. So who would you take to actually add substance to your current team now? Looking at that team that Eddie Howe has built.
Just Arsenal or Arsenal and Man City?
Arsenal, Man City.
Shit, that's a hard one.
Right, I'd say Bruno. I'm going to jump in and say Bruno.
Yeah,
and big clubs are after him.
He's probably the only one, I reckon.
What about Big Dan Burn?
He's got a big he's got a reputation that goes with the rest are like you probably think players that are not punching above their weight, but they're not associated with to be big clubs. They're playing very well as part of that team.
Bandwagon lover.
Bruno has that kind of like star appeal about him, and I probably the other one that will probably have that appeal as well is Nick Pope in goal, because he's a very good goalkeeper. He's tipped to go on to do very, very good things. But yeah, the rest of the team are all functioning part of the team kind of guys. It's not a team of superstars.
Well, maybe that's what probably working to his advantage. Mr. Hinder, you mentioned that the Geordie boys are possibly chasing Arsenal as well, even if everybody's talking about just Man City. They are 2 points behind Man City, even if they have played a game more. Do you actually see this run continuing after the World Cup? As Big Steve has mentioned, it's a good team, it's functioning well. Eddie Howe is managing them properly. will this World Cup break affect them moving forward?
I mean, it could do. It could get food poisoning or could break some legs, get some serious infections. But
where do you think they're going?
I don't know. You said how could it affect them? COVID could be back. We'll all be off for another 6,000 weeks. There's no egos. I think Steve was using a little bit. He wasn't really doing them a service, to be fair, saying that Bruno was the only player that would. I mean, I'm thinking there's quite a few of those players that could get into that Arsenal team. Whether they could get into the City's squad that's supposedly better is a harder one, but better on paper and better in real life are two different things, right? And Brentford will know that quite well. And obviously the big Bournemouth fan over there. But he's got them well oiled, well drilled, playing for each other, wanting to play, with some very good football players in there as well that can play good football, good set pieces, good strong men. Trippier was a revelation signing. I think people were maybe skeptical about Trippier being a little bit older, leaving Tottenham, going Athletic, and then coming back. What has he got? Is he just in it for the money? Like, man, he's been amazing for Newcastle, and that's like a good success story. Shah's been brilliant as well. Dan Burn, fantastic. Pope, what a sign-in. They bought a player that got injured as well. Isak, which was unfortunate from that point of view, but they're consistently performing, right? They're not just. It's not just a flash in the pan where you go, oh, they've done really well this week, and then next week they're down. They're consistently playing well and consistently scoring.
The thing I want to know,
shed loads of goals.
The thing I want to know is when you said some of these players can walk into the Arsenal team.
Yeah,
like who?
Trippier, easily. He can play left and right back.
Who's he going to replace? Ben White?
Huh? I've not heard of Ben White or Tomiyasu.
I haven't had of Tomiyasu. Why are you having Shevchenko? Do you mean Zinchenko? But yeah, no, I would have him in ahead of Zinchenko. Trippier has been fantastic. He's got set pieces for days as well. So, all right, Ben White's been a good player on the right back, but would I want Trippier or him if I had a choice of the two?
Back, to be honest, you wouldn't.
Trippier can cross, can take free kicks. He's got more to his locker than just defending.
There's something going on. There's something going on here, as in. The angry one and Mr. Hinder are agreeing with each other. This is
the
like,
reason we're agreeing is because everyone else is chatting poop. That's why. No, I'm joking.
it's Bruno Steve versus Neil and the angry one. This
come on, then, it.
Bruno would be a great signing as well for Arsenal. He would fit in nicely. Joe Linton, like the player's been like a new signing since he's come into the club.
People were upset that he didn't make the Brazil squad and Fred did, which is quite
of course. But that could be a great thing from Newcastle's point of view. Thinking he's going to be fresher. There's that team, and you look at it and you go, oh, maybe they shouldn't be doing as well as they are. Like there's not the stars, there's not the ones that you want on the back of the shirts, but they're gonna be the names you want on the back of the shirts come the end of the season. Almiron, everyone had, I want to say, written him off. He hadn't been performing anywhere near as he's been performing now, and he's been performing brilliant. Everyone was crazy over St. Maximin, but he's injured so much. But he's out of the team, and to be fair, I don't want to say he's been belittling him. He's a great player, but he's not been missed so much. They're continuing to perform week in and week out, which is, kudos to them. Manager, though, and then filter down to the players. Would the manager walk into any team in the Prem? Good question.
The overlap that Gary Neville had on this week, and he didn't invite any of us. Shame to you,
I couldn't
Gary
make
Neville.
it. I was busy.
Okay, well, there you go. So one of the things that was mentioned is that people look at English managers. They don't look at English managers, especially English people or English fans. They don't think English managers have gotten to a particular caliber of where you call them killers. So like Diego Simeone, Capello, what's his name? The Real Madrid manager. No, Capello. Ancelotti. And when you look at even Tuchel, they rate Tuchel still very highly because Gary Neville described them as killers, people that are out there, men that could take any job in the world. Why has Eddie Howe, so what Eddie Howe is doing for Newcastle, how long does he have to continue to do it in terms of consistency?
But all those guys you mentioned have won stuff.
No, I know. So, but what Gary Neville was trying to say is, apart from winning stuff, is the caliber of their managerial skills.
But it's based on winning stuff.
Is it?
Predominantly.
I think getting the opportunity.
That's how it works.
Getting an opportunity at a big club is key. And he's of Newcastle have got the fan base like ridiculously, right? 52,000 week in and week out, regardless of who's owning the club. Like they're there and cheering on their boys, even in their darkest hours, right? They're still turning up to the game begrudgingly, but it's their boys and showing some support. So, you know, and having a big job like Newcastle, who I want to say was sleeping giants, but needed to be taken to that next thing, is probably the only job Eddie Howe was going to get that was big. And people were writing him off. He wasn't going to be in it long.
Yep, he wasn't even their first choice. He was like, what?
But he isn't going to get Chelsea's job because he hasn't done well enough in Man U's job or Man City's. And he wasn't an Arsenal player, so he wasn't going to get those jobs. And he's not going to get Real Madrid or anyone like that. He's going to have to prove his worth. And not necessarily a bad thing. When these managers that have won loads of stuff, they've worked at the clubs and they've worked their way through that particular club and done really, really well. And a lot of them have done it at maybe the sister clubs or partner clubs of them and worked their way through, but they've won stuff before they've gone in to take the big clubs and gone, right, this is who I am and what's happened. I think like
basically
Mourinho,
what I said, but 10 minutes longer.
No, I think it was 7 minutes 23 longer, but Dunk's got something to say.
I'll say two things. I don't think anyone's done what Eddie Howe's done, which is take Bournemouth from nearly getting relegated out the league to Premier League and then keeping them there for 4 or 5 seasons. That's what he did. That's like his background in management. And two, like he's shown a lot of loyalty in his managerial career. And I, for one, hope that he doesn't go down that route of he does really well at Newcastle. He gets offered Man U. I hope he sticks 2 fingers up at them, and I hope he brings Newcastle back to the top and takes them on, which is what he's doing this season. I'd like to see him like stay at Newcastle.
So here's a question. So one of the things is opportunity. Opportunity has to be given to you before you actually can prove yourself, as people say. So if we're talking about caliber of manager, the point I was trying to make is people write English managers off before they even given an opportunity. For example, when Arsenal had a chance to hire a manager, what will give everybody says, oh, Arteta was the right fit for the job. He was a former Arsenal player. And number 2, he trained under Pep. Are you saying that makes him a better manager than Eddie Howe, who was also available for the job? Big Steve?
No. I wouldn't say it makes him, but I think the fact that he had a link to the club made him a better fit to the job and what the task at hand at Arsenal than Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe going to Arsenal, he may have encountered the same problems that Unai Emery had, where you didn't have everyone getting behind you because you had a history with the club. No. Right? They're not getting behind it. So I think Eddie Howe may have had that same problem. Yeah. And it was a better fit for Arteta.
But why would they not go behind Eddie? I don't get it. Why?
Because Eddie Howe wasn't a former player of the club. He wasn't. He just
most
didn't have that
managers that manage aren't former players.
Say that
Most
again?
managers aren't former players of their club. Not every single.
But Mike, he's not asking me about any club. He's asking me about why didn't Arsenal go for Eddie Howe and they went for Arteta. The reason why I think they went for Arteta is because the job that was at hand, that they needed to change the club from top to bottom. Yeah. And they had a vision. Edu was there. He used to play with Arteta. So they had a link. Arteta was a link. They wasn't going to get a top manager in and give him loads of money and let him change the club. They weren't going to do that.
But don't you think
okay,
that
one second before these two go on and on and on, can we just stick to Eddie Howe? What's it called? Dunk. Sorry. Okay, finish.
Yeah, I was going to say that I was one of the ones that I didn't think Eddie Howe was going to get enough time at Newcastle. And I thought that the fact that they're going to have money, he's not going to stay long, they're going to change it. But he's completely changed my opinion. To be honest, the guy's doing a fantastic job.
He is. Dunk, do you think, regardless of what happens, how the season goes on, Newcastle finishing top 4?
Do I think they'll finish in the top 4?
Yeah, regardless. Do you think there's a possibility? I mean, there is a possibility that the form can drop and all that story. But now that they're sitting 3rd, Eddie Howe is making things work really well. What do you think their target for the season is now? Champions League?
Yeah, I'd be putting money on Champions League. I'm poor, so I can't put much on, but you know, I need my house as somewhere to live. But yeah, if you look at what's going on around them, who's behind them? Spurs inconsistent, Man United inconsistent. Liverpool could pick it up. They might be like an outside bet if they can rediscover form to be the ones breaking back into the top four. But I can see Newcastle holding on to third or fourth in the league. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and the last question for the very wonderful Geordie team. Mr. Hinder, you said you hope actually what you said was Sleeping Giants and Eddie Howe is doing a great job. So, and of course, you pretty much went at Steve when he was trying to make them seem like they didn't have star quality players. Who is their one key player that you think, if anything happens to him, injury and all that, will affect the momentum of the team?
I don't think they've got one that would affect the momentum team. I think they're a unit. Like I said, they're missing Alan St-Maximin, right? And they're not missing him on the pitch. He's a great player to come back in. It'll be like a fresh signing. But I think they work so well together. They're not reliant on one particular person. The goals are spread out across. Almiron's done fantastic recently. They coped without Trippier when he was injured. Maybe Dan Burn has been fantastic. Probably Pope, because he's given that level of confidence. And I said Dubravka wasn't good enough for Newcastle, and he went to a poorer club in the end, and that was evident that he wasn't good enough for them. The only point I want to make, JJ, we're talking about the England managers not being given enough time, all that. The point was proved last week when you were talking about Potter. Should he have more time? We don't talk about that with other managers when they come in, but because they're English managers, they haven't won anything and they haven't got that CV up there with, are we this and this? It's kind of, I think it's built-in prejudice for us that we want that sexy football from that foreign manager that's won everything in our clubs. But sometimes these English managers are pretty damn decent. And he will be an England manager one day, I think. But let's hope that it's not until he's won the league with Newcastle.
I hope that they don't do, when Southgate leaves, that they try and tell him to come from Newcastle. That'd be very, very bad, and I'd be sad if that happens.
I think all managers don't get time, because Nuno didn't get hardly any time at Tottenham. He's playing, so it's not because they're particularly English or foreign. It's, if you're not doing well, it depends on the club, isn't it? Some clubs, for example, if Eddie Howe's, if Eddie Howe had been at Arsenal, I think they'd have given him the same amount of time they've given Arteta, just purely because that's what the club wants to do. But other clubs, if you're not doing well, they're going to ship you.
Well, we need to give big props to Newcastle and Eddie Howe and what they're doing this season. Also, give props to their owners, because people thought they would come, get the big star name, big star manager. They've stuck to Eddie Howe, giving him a long-term contract, and he is rewarding them nicely. We shall see how things continue after the World Cup, but for now, they are sitting third. Okay, now we go to the men that we have described as grinding out results all through this season. Tottenham were down. They're like the comeback kings this season. Comeback against this person, that person, Marseille in the Champions League. And they had a comeback against, a short comeback against Leeds, even if Leeds threw that away. And good goals. Now, the key thing is, Mr. Hinder, Kuleveski, key player, back from injury, looking like if he can stay fit, will be very, very key for Tottenham. Does Tottenham need to buy come January based on the squad that they have, or is this just a case that the players haven't been gelling this season?
If they're going to continue with these ropey formations of 3-4-3, 3-5-3, 4-5-8-1, 6-2, I don't know, whatever digits he's put into his phone that morning he's woke up with, then they're going to need to buy players to fit the formation he wants to play. They haven't got 3 good centre-backs. They haven't had 2 good centre-backs for the last 5 or 6 years. And I don't think that's being disrespectful for Spurs. I think the Spurs fans will be crying out for some decent defenders in there. Romero looked decent, but he's Romero. I haven't seen him. Eric Dyer's been poor. His decision making seems horrendous. He's not a centre back. England. Perfect fit, right? He's not a centre back though. He's a defensive midfielder at best. Spurs up front are always prolific, right? Kuleveski looked fantastic. He looks like a guy who enjoys playing football, which is what they needed. Kane finding the net was brilliant as far as I'm concerned. We've got the World Cup coming and I want him to keep scoring goals regardless of whose team you are. And he needs that form to continue throughout the World Cup. So, they grind results out. Conte is a winner. That mentality breeds into those players. But they were shocking. There's no two ways about it. They were shocking against Leeds. Leeds capitulated for 7 minutes. I don't know what they did. They literally just capitulate is the word. They just disappeared, didn't they? It was horrendous. It looked like it was in the bag, and then suddenly, and they weren't even cracking goals. They were just
and
poorly
just to point
defended.
out, like just before they capitulated, he took off Rocker, who was the midfielder holding it all down. Great tactical decision there by Marsh.
And I thought the goals that Leeds scored, they were dodgy defending by Spurs. Like Rodrigo's goals, they were. I just thought Spurs could just do a lot better. But getting the win and 7 goals, it's like a 1-0 win, right? If you take away the goal difference. So a 1-0 win to Spurs. Conte's ways. They're scoring goals and they're absolutely horrendous. Sorry, Spurs. Love you.
Well, Big Steve, we all know how you love Spurs. And the question here is, Mr. Hinders mentioned how Conte is a winner, and it to trickle down to the players. I don't think it's particularly doing that this season. I don't think he has actually given them a style of play. What is the issue in this point with Conte? Is this just a case that the players are not... He hasn't found that strategy or formation to make Tottenham look formidable? Or is it just a situation where it will come eventually? They're just not gelling at this particular point.
He needs more of the players that he wants. He needs to go out and buy every window, January, in the summer. He just needs to keep adding players that he wants to play and that can fit into his system. Because the ones that are there, they're not, the majority are not his players. The ones that are doing half decent, that he's brought in, Kulusevski.
As a champion manager, as everybody describes him, though, shouldn't it be the case that with the players that are there, I mean, the squad is still very good, and yes, they might not be his players, but why, if as a champion manager, as everybody described him a winner, he surely should be able to do something with that squad.
He can make them do better than other managers, and which we're seeing with when they were playing under Nuno, he's made them do better. But they can't play his way. It doesn't matter what manager you are. You need players that are going to play your way, that fit your style. Doesn't matter how good a manager you are. So he needs more of the players that can carry out his instruction to the letter.
Or they have to buy into it. Or the current players have to buy into it.
I don't think they'll buy into it because they've been there for too long.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think they're good enough.
That squad has been there for too long. And
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying
good enough to play his...
The part of that argument is that even if he kept the same players, they would have to buy into it as well for them to play as well as he wants them to play. I don't think a lot of them
and it'll take that will take time as well.
Enough either way. Yeah.
How good was Bentancur? Man, what a signing he's been. Like, that's what they need, players like that.
Because what is it? Bentancur, Kulusevski, he brought them both in, innit?
Yeah.
We also got Richarlison there.
The one I don't understand is Basuma because he doesn't seem to use him that much.
He played
apart from the past couple of games.
Yeah, he has played the past few games. Another thing that was said on the overlap, and this was said by Jamie Carragher, and I wouldn't ask the goalkeepers union because they probably wouldn't give me the answer that I want to hear. But I asked Dunk and the angry one. Carragher said Hugo Lloris is not good enough. He said he's a World Cup winner. He has never felt he's good enough for Tottenham, and one of the things that Tottenham will need to improve in that squad is to get a better goalkeeper. I'll start with the angry one because he looks like he's about to choke Carragher if you saw him. Do you agree with that?
First of all, not good enough for Tottenham. Acting like Tottenham's some world-class team. He was good enough. He's now deteriorating, obviously, past his prime. But in his prime, he was well good enough.
You see?
He was too good for Tottenham, in fact, when he's the World Cup winner. He's won more cups than the whole of the Tottenham squad. Come on, be serious. So, but he's past his prime now. Probably they do need to get.
Do you actually think he's past his prime? So you know how the goalkeepers get better with age. Hugo Lloris, you actually think? So do you agree that Tottenham needs a new goalkeeper?
They need to get somebody in to be under him, and then when in maybe a year or two he can go. But he's good enough to play for Spurs now. Come on, man. To be honest, flip it out.
Okay.
They get better with age, but there's a certain point when they still drop off, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're expecting a 20-year-old to be as good as a 20-year-old like striker. He's got a little bit less pressure, but a 20-year-old keeper has literally got the weight of the team on his shoulders. Of course, he's going to have it's a completely different episode, but I completely agree. He is way past his best and needs replacing, and he isn't good enough for top 4. Clubs.
Okay, before Dunk answers, Big Steve, yes, you seem like...
I have to step in. So the Reese's problem is that the form's dropped and he's not as good as what he used to. But also, what the modern day goalkeeper is, he can't deliver, and that's using your feet, starting attacks from the back, and he's not good at that. So it's double whammy for him, because at the end of the day, some of the saves he's pulling off, he still pulls off some good saves. But Fraser Forrest is a very able goalkeeper, and he's a very good shot stopper. Yeah, but Tottenham need a goalkeeper that can play the ball out with their feet as the modern day goalkeeper. Distribution has to be from the back, and Lloris doesn't fit into that category. But in terms of shot stopping,
Harry Kane's good with his feet.
Very good.
He can go and go.
Probably pretty decent as well.
Yeah.
Dunk, what do you think about what Carragher said?
If England keep playing like that, he'll probably end up in goal in some of the World Cup matches. He'll go so far back. I see. Look, CNN JJ. I'm going to have to check if Carragher actually said that he was never good enough for Spurs. Did he actually say that, JJ?
No.
Go and watch the overlap.
Did he say he was never good enough for Spurs?
No. He said Hugo Lloris is a big problem. I've never thought he was good enough. I don't think he's good enough for Spurs. That's what he said.
Okay.
But
Well, yeah.
have I gone from Fox News to CNN?
So
Carragher's going to be writing in and complaining if that wasn't said.
On the first one, obviously he's been good enough for Spurs, and like Mike said, he's a World Cup winner, and I agree with the other guys. Yeah, his form's dropping off a little bit from what it was, and obviously goalkeeper's a really vital position for any team, like particularly when you're pushing for the title. And just going back to what Steve and Mike were saying earlier about players buying into Conte's style or being there too long. So you got Lloris back there, but the back three he was playing against Leeds, you've got Dyer and Davis in there as well. Dyer is a player I'd say who's never been good enough as a centre back. So you got him, and Davis was obviously a left back before, and he's using him there as in preference to some other players at the minute. But yeah, their problems mainly seem to stem from the back, and they're leaking goals in like the first half of games. And it's really weird, like how they're doing that in loads of games. It's almost like they're doing if you were doing racing, they're doing a last to first challenge. Right, go on, lads, have a goal or two, then we'll come out and have a go. Like, I'm sure it's entertaining for most neutrals, but I'm sure Spurs fans aren't enjoying their first half performances of late.
Well, as you guys mentioned, they are in the top four. It hasn't particularly clicked. Maybe, as you say, Conte needs to get his own players, and we'll see what happens as time passes. But in terms of one of the last things for Tottenham, if you're looking at it, will always get to the point that the players, if the team doesn't play as good as they want them to, especially as good as Levy wants them to, will it be, we'll support you in the transfer window? How long will it support Conte in transfer window? Or it always gets to the point that we all know Levy will say goodbye. Now, before Mr. Hinder says I'm advocating for them to sack Conte, the question is, does he have one more transfer window to prove that he needs certain players to take them to where they are? They finished fourth last season, so obviously they will be looking for improvements. So I'll start with Mr. Hinder. Does he have one transfer window to get to the level that will be acceptable?
I mean, what does Spurs think they're going to do? Win the league? I mean, if they're
you said they will.
I did think they're going to hope they were going to win the league, and there'll be two really angry boys in a studio with us that would be please win the league. I thought their signings were very good. They were astute. He's made some good signings, and actually, he does deserve time. Regardless, he's still keeping him up with that terrible defense that he's got. We all agree that the back four are rubbish, and that's including the goalkeeper and the three defenders at the moment. You look at that game, and Ben Davis was the best player at the back, which was shocking to see. His tactics aren't helping him out, rightly or wrongly, at that, and maybe leaving him far too exposed. But they need to strengthen in there. And realistically, there's 2 points. One, where do Spurs realistically think they're going to be? Are they going to be winning the league? Because that's a hell of an investment that they're going to need to make over the next couple of years, and sticking with a manager at that particular point, because chopping and changing doesn't help, because you'll give a manager 100 million, perfect, but then if you only give him like 18 months, 100 million isn't actually much to go out and spend. So it needs to be a continuous investment over a period of time in order to get that manager's full players in. As far as I'm concerned, if they're in the top four, Daniel Levy's got to be happy because that's where the money's coming from. Yes, they need to win something or need to be challenging for something, but it's about that continuation and building. But who do they get in if they don't have Conte? There isn't a plethora of top quality managers that teams can just go out and get. Bielsa's about to be signed up by another club, isn't he, Dunk? And
then people's hamstrings are going to be falling left, right, and center. Yeah.
So there isn't. So there's a sense of realism as well, and I think Conte is a good fit for Spurs because he has that image that you want. You know who he is. He is a winner. He brings in good players that work hard, not necessarily always the best football, but they work hard for that team, and they're doing it, and they're scoring lots of goals. I mean, 4-3 is entertaining regardless of who you are, and why not? 7 goals. It's better than a 1-0 win, right? Where's the fun in 1-0 when you can win 4-3 in 7 minutes, eh, Dunk?
I do think that the situation might change for Levy. This with Conte though is that Conte might actually walk away from them. It's not a case of he will sack them. He might actually walk and go back to Juventus.
Yeah, I mean he does have a track record of doing that. If he's not happy,
it's not a case of a manager thinking they're at Tottenham and that's it. They're at the top of their game. Conte knows he could be at a better club than Tottenham. So it's about Levy continuously giving him what he wants.
What an Arsenal fan, eh? Absolutely. That was like a little dig there, wasn't it? Like, he could be at a better club than Spurs. Top 4 in the Prem.
Yeah, but the fact that Juventus is in such a bad situation, it's gonna be appealing to him.
So top 4 in the Prem, or going to the old lady who is struggling in Serie A,
and he can turn it around for him. So at the end of the day, what loyalty does he have to Tottenham? So they have to keep him interested in giving him the money that he wants, letting him buy the players that he wants.
100. I think they do. They need to invest in that team and invest in him to make it go forward. I think he's a great manager and he will win.
All right, we shall see what happens with Tottenham and see if they finish in the top 4. Will Conte stay? Will Conte go? We shall find out. Now, the relegation is looking quite juicy. We have Wolves, Southampton, and Nottingham Forest. Pretty much at the start of the season and the way things were looking, a lot of people will probably say Nottingham Forest is definitely going to go down. Will they? Will things turn around? It's only 9 points between the 11th place team and the team at the bottom. So a lot of games can change things. But as the way it stands, I'll start with Dunk and his fellow sweet rivals, Southampton. Will they stay or will they go? I mean, they're in the bottom 3 now. Do you think it's certain they will go down?
I do believe we did our bottom 3 at the start of the season. I tipped them to run out of luck this season. No bias or anything, you know. Interesting managerial appointment. Maybe they're preparing for life in the Championship already, or maybe that's a bit harsh. Appointed. We keep saying about English managers. At least they've given one a chance.
You can't say that after you just said they're preparing for Championship.
Well, they've appointed a Championship manager, English. So again, like in one way, that's nice to see. And again, he's only just in the door, so you can't really judge him on the first game, and it was against Liverpool as well. So I mean, obviously, being an English manager, I wish him well at Southampton, but not well enough to stop taking someone else's place, like Bournemouth in the league.
Who did they appoint?
So Nathan Jones. He's
Welsh, right?
Luton manager.
Luton manager.
Oh, is he Welsh?
He's Welsh.
All right.
Yeah.
My apologies, British manager.
Do your research, mate.
I'm like, hang on a minute. It definitely got. I had to double check. Yeah, he's definitely Welsh.
Okay, there you go, CNN Dunk, giving us fake news about where managers are from. The angry one, looking at the Wolves and the way they played Arsenal, they didn't seem like they were the bottom club of the Premier League. They played really well. They played really well. I mean, if you didn't know anything about the table, you think, wow, this is actually a very good team. Run out of luck in terms of this season and where they are sitting. Do you think a turnaround could happen for Wolves, or do you see it as, okay, you've run out of luck like Southampton?
I think they need to change something, to be honest, because as well as they played against Arsenal, when they got into good positions, they just continually fluff their lines. If they keep playing like that, they were good for the 2/3 of the pitch. The final third, they're just not cutting it for whatever reason. If they carry on playing like that, they're going to go down. Doesn't matter how well you play. All that matters at the end of the day is that you will get a point. when you're battling for relegation. No one gets an award for playing well if you get relegated. So I think they're going to be in amongst the people. Them, Forest, Bournemouth. Those are the three. Really, I think that. Southampton, you just never know with them. They've been there, they've done it before. So I think they'd probably be all right.
Mr. Hinder, Nottingham Forest, the giant killers, as you described them when they beat Liverpool. They beat Crystal Palace at the weekend in the Premier League. Could this be... Is there a possibility? I mean, there is mathematically, but do you still see them as going down? Or could they have like a run of games where Jesse Lingard finally scores a Premier League goal and then before you know, they'll be back up?
Jesse Lingard will score a Premier League goal because I believe they've got Man United next game. So that is written in the stars for him to get some worldy goal, dribble past 15 players, including his own, and score an absolute crack belter of a goal. Do you know what? He's doing a great job. I've got a lot of respect for Forest of what they've done. They might have gone and spread, and hope that some of these players are going to be good. They've taken a gamble, have gone, right, you know what, we need to invest. We need better players. We want to stay in. Sticking with the manager, giving him a new contract, even though they were struggling. It shows that they've got faith in what they're doing and faith in their project. Rightly or wrongly, I'm hoping they've got some good clauses in just in case they do get relegated. But that's so close down there at the moment. And I believe Everton aren't helping things with that side of it. And I think Frank was on Twitter the other day saying that Gerrard got sacked first, so it's fine if he gets sacked second because it still proves Dunk wrong, and that was perfectly happy. But that is getting a bit tight down there for him. And I believe 9 points separating 9th in the Premier League and 20th. So it's very, very close. Really, like everything down there, it's ridiculously close. But I think Forest will be okay come the end of the season.
So we have Forest, Southampton, and Wolves down there, bottom three. Big Steve, you have floating around the bottom three. You have Everton, West Ham, Leeds, Bournemouth, Leicester. When you look at that, the group of those teams that are there, and you look at the ones that are the bottom three, of course, we all know Dunk wants Lampard to be sacked, so he wants Everton to do badly.
Outrageous claims.
Who do you think can be sucked into that battle?
I think Everton will be the one sucked in because I don't see how Lampard changes it consistently for a long period of time.
At the start of the season, do you think they would have thought they would be where they are now after escaping last season? Do you think the key thing was just let's keep us up?
I think they wanted to be higher. I think they thought they would have been a bit further away from the relegation zone, but I think they're just a point above it at the moment. And out of the teams that are below them, Southampton, I don't understand their managerial appointment because he was Luton and in the 10th in the league. So I don't see him coming in and taking them out of the position that they're in. Wolves, their managerial appointment will have an effect and make them improve. So I expect them to climb out. Forest, this World Cup gap will give them a chance to actually bed those players in because I don't think the majority of them are going to the World Cup. So if they're smart and they can use this gap to actually bond them all together and use it like a pre-season and then hit the ground running. But I can see Everton, I don't see them investing in January and I don't see Frank doing anything significantly different to drag them away from the relegation zone.
Okay, well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Relegation situation I talked about. Mr. Hind is about to interrupt me again.
Wolves have got Everton next. That's which is really key for down there.
And
but why do you think
JJ didn't let me talk about Bournemouth putting 7 goals past Everton this week? What?
They did in one week, right? Why do you feel that Wolves' appointment was better than Southampton's?
He's got more experience as a manager.
At what? Like, the other guy was experienced as a manager, right? Just a slightly lower leagues.
What's his name? I can't pronounce it.
Lopetegui?
Oh,
around
that's
there.
it, Lopetegui. Yeah,
where's he come from?
He's
not English.
League.
He's not English, which is why I think he's getting the big props.
Done a temporary stint at Real Madrid, Spain manager, Seville manager. He's won cups, so he's got more of a pedigree
at top level. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, especially dealing with the players that's at Wolves, because it's not to say Wolves are made up of an English team of English players. There's a lot of foreign
Portuguese players
in the league.
of course, because the Spanish and Portuguese best of mates, right? He's a goalkeeper that's been bumbling around and never really done well anywhere.
You're joking. He won the Europa League with Sevilla.
Yeah, but
He's
that's
never done
it.
it,
Like, I
what?
mean, he's not. He's just bumbling around. He's not.
Neil.
He had 3 years there, but left, didn't he? And then he's gone to, and it hasn't gone well. And he's gone to Wolves. I'm not sure why he's a better appointment. Southampton are in
because he's won stuff. Better teams.
I just think he will have a better effect on Wolves to take them out of the relegation zone than what Southampton have
On
appointed.
paper, anyway, at least we'll see in real life.
paper,
On
yeah.
paper.
I would like to know what made Southampton appoint the guy Jones to make them think they're going out. As Dunk says,
maybe
are they preparing
even
for life in the Championship already? It's not to say they've taken it from the 1 or 2 top side in the Championship. Luton the 10th are not playing. They're not playing fantastic football.
Yeah, but it's Luton in the Championship, right? They're not going to be playing. The budget is ridiculous. They've never been up in the Prem, so they've never had their parachute payments. It's a much harder place to get points for bringing yourself up and through. When you're in the lower echelons, Wolves have got like the worst form at the moment in the Prem, I believe, and West Ham have got, I think, the second worst form. Who are teetering around that. But I thought the Southampton appointment was odd, but encouraging. Maybe they were looking to go more home after the inconsistencies of Houghton Hall. But who knows? Only time will tell, right?
Yeah, I think Wolves are just a decent striker away from actually dragging themselves out of it.
No, I thought they looked all right against Arsenal.
You done?
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, the whole point of a podcast
you can have the
is
show
to
back.
talk, right?
You can have the show back now.
Thank you very much. And now that I can have the show back, ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman will pick their 11 top players so far of the season in the Premier League in any formation that they feel is best. And we will start with the angry one.
All right. So basically, I'm going in goal. I'm going Ramsdale, but Pope was on there as well. But I'll go Ramsdale. I'll go Dalot as one of the fullbacks. I'll go Saliba. I was toying with Thiago, but I'm going to put Dan Burn in instead because Newcastle have had I think they've got the best defence so far. Put Trippier in there as well over Ben White. Tough call for me, but I've done it. Partey, De Bruyne, Almiron, Saka, Foden, Haaland. I wanted to put Martinelli in, but I didn't know who to take out. That's my team.
Ramsdale, Dalot, Saliba, Bonds, Trippier, Partey, De Bruyne, Almiron, Saka, Foden, and Haaland.
But he's probably going to drag that team down if he doesn't score.
Yeah, you never know. They might carry him in games where he's not doing too many touches. Okay, not bad. And of course, you're playing what, 4?
It's a 4-3-3 or some variation of that.
Okay, looking good. Mr. Hinder.
Swallowed some stats for this one because I thought it was Kepa. He hasn't played enough. If he had, but Chelsea would be much higher in the league. Yeah, I've gone different formation. Nick Pope in goal, 7 clean sheets. Without a doubt, the best English keeper that we've got at the moment. I've gone with 3 across the back. They're not necessarily central defenders, but I've gone with 3. Trippier, sure. I did think of putting Gabriel, but he's got on this mistake leading to a goal, so that took him out. And Saliba in there. Centre of the park, we have got Bentancur, because I think he's doing wonders in a not so good team. Maddison in the centre. Gross from Brighton. He's making it in. Statistically, he's doing very, very, very well there. De Bruyne, you have to have De Bruyne, and you can't have a team without De Bruyne at the moment. And then up front, you've got 3 men. I don't know where they're going to play and how they're going to fit in this 3-4-3 formation because it seems to be quite narrow. Haaland, obviously. Kane, because he is on fire as well at the moment. And last but not least, I'm going to upset a few Geordie fans on this one. I've put Tony in because statistically, and I've done it fair, statistically, he is the better man for girls, not Wilson.
So your three defenders are Trippier, Saliba, and
Shah
Sure.
from Newcastle.
okay.
Shah's one of the best defenders statistically in the league.
No, that's fine. So what I'm trying to understand here. So Tony, though,
Yeah,
you picked Tony. You picked him because of statistics.
He's basically playing
statistics. Yeah,
FIFA formation. That's basically your FIFA formation.
that's similar. I play a 4-3-3, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I picked Wilson to go to the World Cup over Tony, but I didn't pick. This team was picked on statistics.
Okay.
And statistically,
But
Tony is better. Gut-wise, I'm
statistically,
still
Tony's-
picking Wilson.
Statistically, Tony's not good enough for you to go to the World Cup, but gut-wise, Wilson is. I'm
Because
just
you
trying to
don't
understand.
pick a World Cup team based on statistics, but I can pick my almost half team of the year based purely on statistics. But if I'm going to the World Cup, I'm not taking Tony. I mean, I take Haaland if he could change his nationality for me, but he can't come either. But Wilson just hasn't scored enough throughout the whole season. His form has come on leaps and bounds recently, and it was nice of Newcastle to give him a little bit of time off as well before the World Cup. And where Tony has been banging him in, but he's banging him in for Brentford, not banging him in for a top 14 though, is he? See, top 14 though, Newcastle.
Okay, wonderful. Okay,
Argument still stands.
for you, Big Steve.
Oh dear. So in goal, Pope. Closely followed by Allison, but yeah, going with Pope. It's a 4-3-3 formation or 4-1-2-3, whichever one. Right back, Ben White, Saliba, and I'm tossing with the idea Botman and Schlur, whichever one from Newcastle centre backs. They've both been very good. Dan Burn, left back.
Oh, Dan Burn, left back, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Partey sitting in front of him. De Bruyne and another one. This is another close call between three players, Xhaka, Neves and Guimaraes. But I've gone with Guimaraes in the middle. Down the right is Almiron. Down the left is Maddison and Haaland up front. There were some close calls for Trossard, Tony, and Jesus to be in there.
What did you use? Mr. Hinder used statistics, not God. What did you use?
I used a mixture of stats and just what I've seen them play.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the back to me, the back lines had to be made up of Arsenal and Newcastle players because their defenses are the best and they're playing as units. It's hard to. You actually want to pick the pairings. So like the two centre backs, Saliba and Gabriel. But as Neil said, Gabriel's had a mistake in him, which has led to some goals. But Botman and Schur at Newcastle have been very impressive. Pope, to me, hands down. He's run close by Allison in terms of goalkeeping, but probably them two have been the leading keepers in the league.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Dunk.
I'm going to spread the love around in my team. Let's try and involve a few teams here. A bit similar to Neil's, actually. So I've got a 3-4-3, and again, like they're not all centre-backs at the back because I couldn't squeeze anyone into my formation I wanted. So yeah, starting at the back, I've got a Pope in goal, like some of the other guys there. I think he's been the best this season. And I'd agree with Steve, actually, Allison would be fairly close second, pushing him for that if Liverpool hadn't have had such bad form at the start of the season. So across the back, like Neil, I'm going with Trippier. I think Trippier's had an amazing season, like contributions with attacking as well as defending. He's just exceeded very well. Saliba, who I think has made everyone's team, right with that one. He's had a really great season. And I'm actually going to put Cancelo in because I think he's a class act. And I don't think any of Man City's problems are down to him this season, just attacking and defending. He's an absolute unit up and down the field. So going to the 4 across midfield, I've chucked in Maddison there over on the right. I think he's worthy of an inclusion of how he's been playing. In the middle, this was a toss-up between Bruno of Newcastle and Bentancur, and I've gone from Bentancur because I'm spreading the love around. I would have had too many Newcastle players in there. They're good, but there's too many for me. So next to him, De Bruyne. Again, like making most people's teams. And on the left, I've actually got Trossard. So Neil had gross and Brighton, and I think but just because he's been a little bit quiet in the last couple of weeks, but Trossard, he had a hat trick against Liverpool, I think it was, and he's come up with some bangers this season. So another player having a good season. Then front three across the top, I went with Almiron, Haaland as striker, and I've pleased these lads. I've actually put Martinelli in because I think
Get in.
Yeah. So for an attacking left mid, I've tried to fit them into the system that I'm playing more or less enough. So I think Martinelli got it there at the end. I'll give a quick cheeky mention to Somerville of Leeds though. I think he's up to 5 goals now, which is pretty impressive considering that Leeds team.
If only he was in a team that could defend. He might
And he's got more goals than Solanke.
He has, you're right.
Shock.
There you go. So those are the teams, ladies and gentlemen, from the Armchair Pundits for the season so far. So now what will happen is we are going to talk about best player, best team, and best manager. So best player, we'll start with Big Dunk. Best player, best team, best manager. And your whys.
Best player. So you could go on different criteria for this one. So Haaland's banged in a load of goals. We've got players exceeding expectation. So it has to be someone out of my team of the season there so far. I think out of all those lists there, tricky one, I would actually give it to Trippier. I think I would. Player of the season. Again, like Neil said, people weren't expecting much. They thought he was coming to Newcastle for the money. But he's on some great form, like scoring goals, defending really well, part of that unit that's keeping clean sheets. So yeah, that's the criteria I'm going to go on. We'll go with Trippier. Manager of the season. Oh, I might have to just grasp it away from Eddie Howe there and give it to Arteta, seeing as they are top of the league by 5 points. So I'll give manager of the season to Arteta. Again, if you look where they come from last season, missed out on top 4. Some people, maybe some of these two lads here, were questioning things, or they just wanted him to get it right. And it's gone from that to top of the league. So I think he's well deserving of manager of the season. What was your last one, JJ?
Best team.
Best team. Oh, go on then. Because we gave Arteta that, I'll give best team to Newcastle.
We or you?
I'll give it, yeah. Me.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Give that one to Newcastle, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. The angry one.
Best player. I've got 3 in my head. So Haaland, because he's just a machine. Saliba, because he's just been a beast at the back. Probably, well, other than the Newcastle boys, probably going to be one of the best defenders. So I'll go with and Jesus actually, because Jesus, even though he didn't make my team, he's just been phenomenal. The way he holds the ball, the way he brings people in. I'm going to be blatantly biased and go with Arsenal player. I want to say Jesus. Because when I've watched him play, he's just been exceptional. All that's missing from him now is just more goals. So I'll go him, and he makes the Arsenal team really tick as much as anybody does in any team, really, without actually scoring that many goals. So I'll say he's at the moment my best player. Best manager? It has to be Arteta at the moment, but I mean, it's going to be, for me, it's between Arteta and Eddie Howe, really. The only reason why Arteta is there now is because Arsenal are top. If Newcastle were top, I'd say Eddie Howe. And best team, again, it's between Arsenal and Newcastle, really. And I'll say Arsenal because Arsenal are top. But after Christmas, when Arsenal aren't top and Newcastle are, I'll say Newcastle. So there you go.
Okay, Big Steve.
Best player, Haaland. 18 goals, 13 games.
But yeah, his team carries it.
He's phenomenal. Mikey, will let it go. If you're going to quote me correctly. Yeah? 18 goals in 13 games. Phenomenal scoring record to start the season. So what he's done up till now. Yeah, most impact. Best manager, Mikel Arteta. Just based on the fact of the record that Arsenal have produced, better than what the Invincibles done that season. It's a 12 wins, a draw and a loss or something like that. It's really, really good. And best team, again, is Arsenal. Because if you think about where they were at the start of last season to where they are now, it's a massive turnaround. And it's only because Arsenal put down such a good record that I'm not mentioning Newcastle and Eddie Howe. Because if you look at the resources that these teams have, if you look at the resources that these teams have, that Newcastle has, and what he's done, it's a very impressive job. So yeah.
All right, and of course, Mr. Hinder, best player, best team, best manager.
Best player, I whittled it down to two. I'll make Kieran from Newcastle and Kevin from City. For what they bring to their clubs, it's really hard to pick the one. And I eventually went with Trippier, but then Duncan did. So then I thought maybe I'll go with De Bruyne just to be different. But Trippier, because of what he is doing at that club, I think is fantastic. Manager, I went with Eddie Howe because I think he has done wonders at the club. And Arteta's doing a great job at Arsenal. But I think that the actual job that he's done at Newcastle is much more impressive in such a short period of time, where Arteta's last season, he would have got it last season, and then this season for me, Eddie Howe, just because of what he's done in such a short period of time, is brilliant. But my team would be Arsenal. They didn't get the individual plaudits, not so many, but as a team, they're top of the league. They're doing really, really well. They're coming up with the goods even when they don't look like they're playing great. And so as a team, definitely they're the best team in the Prem. You know, they're the team to beat, defensively solid, play for each other. It's nice to see that there's teams in the Prem that look like they're solid teams and not just out there for some good hard cash.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The season so far has produced many magic. It's produced wonderful situations and amazing goals and players. Eddie Howe and Arteta, favorites in terms of managers with the Armchair Pundits. Arsenal and Newcastle also sharing those plaudits. And this Premier League will take a break till the end of the World Cup and should resume, I believe, Boxing Day, December the 26th. We will still be giving you good quality content on the World Cup and, of course, all the football news. So please stay tuned to grctv.co.uk and you can follow us on all our socials at GRC Football TV. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful so far. Top of the league in terms of carrying Man City is Big Steve. Thank you for joining us. You also have the angry one who has been here to tell Big Steve that he's not making sense. Thank you.
Welcome.
Dunk, giving me a new name, CNN/Fox, JJ, and Mr. Hinder. This is the only time of the show he hasn't actually interrupted me, so it's amazing. See you real soon, ladies and gentlemen, for the World Cup. Till then, more thanks.